This is part 3 of my noise reduction weather seal videos. I recently found this kit available on Amazon for a reasonable price of less than $21. I was curious to see if it made any difference in sound deadening or helping to keep the trunk and frunk more weather resistant, like keeping dirt out. Here are the contents of the box. First we have the installation step. This guide shows the different components. In our case, it's going to be the frunk and also the trunk seals. They come individually wrapped with more than enough length to cover both the frunk and trunk areas. Here is a close-up of the weather seal. On the back side is 3M tape, which adheres to the car, and it has a hollow circular shape opening. The first step is to clean the outer edge of the trunk to make sure there is no dirt or grease. No adhesion promoter was included with this kit, so you can substitute isopropyl alcohol if you wish. Next, start at one end of the trunk lid. Install the weather seal close to the edge. Work your way around the angles and corners, and eventually you'll go around the entire trunk lid. This is where I started the gasket seal. On the first go around, I installed the gasket fairly close to the edge of the lip. However, I pulled too much on the rubber gasket, which caused some of it to peel off around the corners. So I took it all off and replied it again. And when installing, try to leave the gasket as loose as possible as you're going around the corners. If you put too much tension on it, it will lift up. Don't worry, there's plenty of length to cover the whole trunk lid. Carefully go around the corners, following the outline of the edge. It is a bit difficult to bend it around the tight curves of the trunk lid. When you get to the end, trim it with a pair of scissors. Once you install it, press down firmly along the whole length to make sure it adheres to the metal. The trunk install ended up being a bit trickier than I thought at first, since there's so many folds and turns when going around the parts of the trunk. When I had to install it a second time, I needed a few more inches of gasket. I used this from the excess that I trimmed off earlier. The gasket that's used in this kit seems to be a little bit on the large side. Over the last couple weeks, I've noticed that it is a lot more difficult to close the trunk. You really have to slam it hard to get it to fully connect. Moving along the outside edges, you don't really see any of the gasket showing through. The new seal does wrap around the entire front part of the hinges, across the trunk, and to the other side. This may help with water entry issues that some owners report occurring. Well, now for the frunk. Here you can see that the trunk and frunk tubing is very similar. With the frunk tubing looking a little bit smaller in diameter. As with the trunk, start on one side of the hood. The only area of concern is the very front edges. There isn't a whole lot of room to reach under the hinge area. Use a trim tool, or like I did, the ends of a pair of scissors to wedge it in and make it adhere to the metal. When I first installed the gasket on the frunk, I had about a 1/4 inch or so of clearance between the edge and the gasket itself. But when I closed the hood, I found out that the gasket wasn't creating a seal like it should. So I had to redo the whole section over again and make it right at the edge. I apologize for the miscentered videoing of this section here. I was trying to apply the gasket while holding the camera. Not always a great idea. I have my doubts about how effective sound reduction would be on the frunk hood area. There's no connection between the frunk and the interior of the car like there is in the trunk. The entire length of the hood near the wipers is exposed and cannot be sealed. However, maybe sealing the other 3/4 of the hood will help keep it cleaner and maybe a little quieter. When you get to the end, trim off the remaining gasket with scissors, remove the rest of the tape, and apply it to the underside of the hood. At this point, go back along the entire gasket area and press down, making sure the 3M double-sided tape adheres well to the metal of the hood. I placed the gasket seal as close to the edge as possible to create a good seal when the hood closes. Since putting it close to the edge and loosening up, the gasket ended up being too short. I simply took a leftover piece and cut it to fit in the remaining area to fill the gap. Here you can see the new gasket is filling in the gap between the hood and bumper area. Now on to the sound tests. Like in my 2 previous videos, I use the same criteria to measure the sound so I can get a consistent reading and so I can make comparisons between the different gasket seals that I used. Here are the results from the previous 2 videos. The before with no gaskets, results with door gaskets, results with the glass roof gasket, and now finally we'll see the results for the frunk and trunk gaskets. Honestly, I must say I was disappointed that the before and after results are about the same. The resolution of my sound meter is only integer decibels, so if there is a difference, it is less than 1 decibel. Here's how the auto opening trunk struts work with the seals. They seem to dampen the effect of opening. In conclusion, I feel that the price is decent for the frunk and trunk seals. I don't have any definitive proof that they are able to reduce sound. Both seals do have the benefit of keeping water and dirt out of their respective areas, so right there might be a reason enough for me to keep them on. Be aware that the trunk is harder to close. One negative of this kit is it didn't include adhesion promoter wipes like my other kits included. On the positive side, they give plenty of weather stripping to cover both the frunk and trunk, with at least a foot left over. After a couple weeks of use, both the frunk and trunk weather seals have adhered well and have stayed in place. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.